All right.
All right. All right, everyone. Welcome today to the Exit Your Way Business Roundtable. We had to wait for the intro music from Ira. Andrew's not going to be here today. He's got a little pet emergency he's taking care of. So we're going to continue on without him. Today I'm really just appreciative to be able to first of all know Jill, but Jill Valdez is going to be talking with us today. And you know how these things come around with me, quite honestly, is we've got several topics that we're always looking at and thinking about, and sometimes things happen, and quite honestly, I wasn't planning on talking about cracking the communication code this week, but Jill and I had a call scheduled on last Friday, and so day after last week's event, and she was telling me about, I'm doing this and that, and I was like, well, do you want to speak at our event next week? And she was like, sure. And I'm like, awesome, because this is a great topic, and it's a great follow-up to some of the ones we've done recently, and I'm really excited about it because as we know, both in our professional and personal lives, understanding who we're talking to and how they're receiving the information, or at least how we think they're receiving information, it is so critical to delivering the right message, and then even having any idea if it's getting heard or not. And so without further ado here, Ira, do you have anything to lead us off this morning? Andrew usually puts a couple words in. I put Ira on the spot today to have him up here with us.
Well, we were having a fun, lively discussion this morning. And one of the books we were talking about, it's a book that I read a long time ago, about 10 years ago, the 5 Love Languages.
Yeah.
Really help people kind of with this whole concept, because I know this, most people are selfish by nature, and a lot of people don't even take the time to recognize that. So if you can get inside someone else's head and figure out what motivates them and how they process stuff, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Even just wanting to.
Definitely.
Even if you have trouble doing it, just the fact that you want to will help you win a lot of time. So that's where I'm gonna start the conversation, let the expert talk, and then I'll fill in as I can. But good morning from sunny California. It's overcast here, in case you were curious, which is weird. My kids go, Dad, why is it a little bit dark outside? They're so used to sunshine they don't even recognize what clouds are. So there you go.
Well, and I don't know with you, Jill,
it's
but
a sunny day here in Portland.
Yeah, we have just a deep blue, not a cloud in the sky.
Oh, my sunshine. That's what it
70
is.
70-degree day here in the Northwest. I mean, these are the 3 days we live for.
Right. Right. We get 300 days. We get 300 days of sun. We stay inside the other days.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, let's get started, Jill. I mean, I'm excited. Thank you so much for offering to do this. It's great to have you with us today. I'm sure the audience, as Ira said, when we started, we had some great conversations around this already, starting at the tables, and it was really cool to see that. And as I was listening to people, I understood we've got a lot of people on today that have experience with this, so I'm sure we're going to get good feedback, and we're going to be pulling people up on stage. So let's get going.
Yeah. And guys, don't forget to make comments, right? If you have a question, raise your hand. We can bring you on stage if you have something that would add to the conversation. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Ira, the 5 Love Languages, that's such a valuable book. That's such a valuable resource for relationships. When you can understand how people are expressing love, so my husband and I, we read that book probably 15, 20 years ago. And it literally changed everything for us, because I'm acts of service, he's words of affirmation. And when we finally understood that about each other, and then being able to see that in other people in my world, and being able to talk to them and affirm them in a way that they understand it, it's so valuable. Thanks for making sure to mention that book.
Yeah, no problem. It's the one contribution I can make today.
There you go.
I'm sure you have a lot more. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Oh, look at that.
Awesome.
That go away. Yes, there we go. Okay.
Like magic.
So here we go. So talking about cracking the communication code today. And I'm super excited about this opportunity to talk to you and to be sharing about this. So people were asking me, I saw a lot of in the comments about like, what are you using? Do you use Myers-Briggs? I've taken Myers-Briggs, but what I tend to use is I use the DISC, and I'll talk about why in a few minutes. But first of all, cracking the communication code, knowing it's really based about knowing personality. Who are you and who are the people around you? What's their personality? When you increase your self-awareness, it helps you learn how you respond to conflict. It helps you understand better what motivates you, causes you stress, and how you solve problems. We talked about earlier that people are generally selfish by nature and very self-focused. The ironic thing is that as much as we tend to be into ourselves, we can be very unaware of ourselves and how we're being presented to other people. And that's what self-awareness is about. And that is a critical component to cracking this communication code is who am I being perceived by with other people? Kelly was talking earlier about how with her personality, people were perceiving her in a way that just totally wasn't the case. It's just based on how she communicates because of her personality.
Yeah.
So the thing is the more and then just even thinking about like other people, the more I understand how you're wired, the more I have the ability to be what you need. How critical it is that we get out of that mindset of it being all about me. When I understand how other people are perceiving me, when I understand how other people communicate, then I get to be what's going to be best for them. And that's a core piece to being successful in life. Even if you're a solopreneur, if you work all by yourself, you still have people around you. This can even go into family and other outside friend relationships. We should be thinking about how we can be the best for the people around us. And part of that, not only is it being self-aware, but it's also knowing about other people. So that's why I use the DISC. It's non-judgmental and it helps people discuss their behavioral issues. It doesn't confine people because there's all sorts of levels. Like DISC, DISC, you can be a super high D and a super low I, but then, there's just all those ranges on the continuum. And what it does is when we understand about each other, then we get to appreciate the strengths that each other has. For me, I'm a super high D and a super high I. C is probably my lowest. And so when I'm surrounded with people who are C's, it helps me appreciate a lot more what they do. The other thing about DISC, why I tend to use it when I'm presenting to other people, is because it's easy to remember. And what good is learning something if we're not going to apply it?
Yeah.
If it's too complicated to be able to use, then we maybe walk away from it. Have you ever walked away from a conference and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. I've learned so much. And then a week later, you're like, what was that? So I want to empower people to be able to use what the tools are that are being presented. So I think that most people are aware of DISC. A lot of times when I deal with businesses, they know what the DISC is and they kind of know who they are. Some people don't, and if you don't, then message me on LinkedIn and I can send you a PDF so that you can take the assessment and find out what you are. And that's totally free. It's just something that I'll just send to you. But let's talk about these different personalities real quick. Okay. First of all, they fall into quadrants. So when you look at your D's and I's, if you look at them, D's and I's are super active. They come into a situation and they're all about change. They're those people who are like, oh, the room is blue. I'm going to change it to purple just for the sake of change, right? Like they change things simply for the sake of change, but they do it with an intentionality of thinking that it's going to make it better. They just walk in and automatically think, it may work for other people, but I'm going to change it. And they're super active. They can flip on a dime, not in a negative way, but just being super active mind. Their mind is really fast. I would imagine that within this group, we have a lot of D's and a lot of I's. Your C's and your S's, they're very reflective and they're about maintaining the environment. C's and S's make great managers. They are super critical to any team because they're talking and thinking about how do we keep things going? How do we look at the systems that we have that are in place and just make them the best that they can be without implementing change? And then your D's and your C's, they're super task focused. Have you ever gotten an email from somebody or a text from somebody and they don't even like check in with you? Like they don't even say hi. They're just responding to an email that you sent before. And it's just all about the task. Well, that's your D's and your C's, but your I's and your S's are all about people. They care so much about people. When you're interacting with them, they're the ones who are like, oh, how was your weekend? How are things going? They are great because they're the ones who remember something that you would have said maybe 6 months ago. And, and then they remember that you mentioned, March is my anniversary month or whatever. And so in March, they send you a card. Those are your I's and your S's. They're great people to have as well. When you break these down into the 4 separate components, D's are dominant. It's they're direct, they're decisive, they're doers. The flip side of that is they can come across as very domineering and very demanding. They're your type A personalities. If you've done the colors, obviously they're the red. Your I's, those are influential people. They're inspirational and they're interactive and they tend to be very interesting, but they can be impulsive. And because they're so much focused on having fun and everything being great, they can be irritating, especially to D's and C's who are trying to get things done. Excuse me, I'm new to Portland, and so my allergies are a little bit new, sorry. Okay, your S's. S's are steady. They're very stable. They're very even-keeled. They're supportive. They're sincere. They really care about people. When they give you a compliment, you can know that they are speaking from their heart.
Yeah.
The downside of being an S is that they're slow. They need time to process. In a meeting, we'll talk about this, but in a meeting with your S's, you need to say, we're not going to make any decisions today. I want you to be thinking about this. And they're super sensitive. You can hurt their feelings pretty easily. So D's and S's obviously can clash from time to time. And then finally, your C's. Your C's are super compliant. These C's are people that you want. They make great lawyers. They make great CPAs. They make great nurses, people who have to know and pay attention to detail. That's going to be your C. They're super cautious. They're very careful, but they're also super conscientious. Even though they're task focused, they are conscientious of what they do and how it impacts an organization. The downside of C's is that they can be calculating and they can also come across as condescending. I just did this workshop for a team over the weekend, and one of the C's was like, yeah, people find me very condescending sometimes.
Yeah,
so that's kind of a general overview of the different personalities.
So when you look at this and you go, we've all got a mix of these things, so when you look in business, is there when you look at A, the CEO, B, a manager, C, a salesperson, so like for a salesperson, what do you see in salespeople that usually the mixture that would be a good indicator of someone that could handle themselves well in that situation?
So really, if I'm thinking of a good salesperson, I want somebody who, when they graph out their results, they're going to be more towards the middle. That they're going to be able to just jump in and move in all those quadrants. So they're not going to be extreme of anything. They're going to be more in the middle of everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would tell you from managing sales for 20 years that inside sales,
Yeah.
outside sales makes a difference, and also the vertical market that you're selling into. Like if you're selling into the financial industry, it's a little bit different than if you're selling printers. This is just a little heads up. It's
Yeah.
it's food for thought, and we could get into why all those things matter. But you know, at the end of the day, it's like human beings have variance, and if you have a market that's dominated by certain personality types, you want a sales rep that not is the same, but actually is the counterpart to that, so that they can communicate without grinding gears.
Yeah. That's a great.
Exactly.
That's not probably the technical way to say it, but that's Ira speak.
But no, I think that's really interesting because you have.
That's cool, Ira. You know, I mean, we talk about the thingy
Right,
on the wall.
right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you have to be able to.
For my clients about their websites, they're like, you know, I wanted to be able to click and have it go, and I'm like, yeah, I know what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Damon, the I in us is coming out.
There you go. There you go. Well, you know, when you're looking at this, and I never thought of that, like Ira said, but and we can talk about this when appropriate too, is like, how do you really judge in business? To me, the most interesting thing about personality styles outside of the communication, we'll talk about communication more, is really understanding how to use that to put the right people in the right spots, you know, because you have a business and you go, okay, this is the role or the thing that we need to have accomplished, and here is what we think we need for that, you know. And I think that's where businesses now are the big businesses have done it for a long time, but so many smaller businesses gloss all over that. They just completely lose this, right? They don't think about personality testing. And when you go back and you look at, you know, I don't know if people realize this or not, but do you know why every UPS driver seems like they are the same person? It's because they do massive amounts of testing to make sure that they hire the right person. So they're going to be that same experience naturally when they see you. And the same thing with Southwest Airlines. They've been doing this stuff for 20 plus years. They get really, really good at it. And that's where I think that it's so interesting about this subject, just the fact that the ways that you can use it to really differentiate yourself, your business, and make sure you've got the right people around you.
Well, and if you incorporate this into your hiring process, which I'm sure we're going to get to, right? This is the number one reason why a lot of companies do this testing is for hiring. So when you incorporate this in your hiring process, you can start to evaluate the team that you have and how the different quadrants play together in the spaces to help to minimize company conflicts and increase productivity, because the less, you know, emotional garbage or baggage that you have in the office, then the more people can focus on doing their job. So I'm sure we're going to get there. How's that for a segue? We didn't prep this. So.
No, we didn't. Let's continue on, Jill, because
all the HR people, they're like, all the HR people, they're totally rolling over right now, because legally you cannot, you got to be really careful with personality assessments and those kinds of assessments, because you can't hire based on that. If there's even a hint of that, you are opening yourself up to a lawsuit. What you can do is be aware of it. That's why I teach this, is so that you can be aware of it. And what I encourage companies to do is even go back a step and say, okay, in this role, what is the ideal personality? And then you craft the ad and the job description to attract that kind of person. And then as you know this more, as you know, you can start reading people, and then that that will drive your interview process and who you're selecting. So just want to make sure that we're talking about the fact that you cannot
we all know
hire.
there's winks out there, right?
Yeah.
Is that all I need to say, or should I explain that a little bit more? Because I've been told by HR plenty of times what I can do legally, but this is by my VP of sales or the owner will come to me and say, look, you're hiring a person that's in this demographic. Not legal at all, but it was mandated. So,
but it's interesting you say that, Jill, because we were talking with Walter Crosby, I don't know, a week or so ago about he does sales management consulting, and one of the things he mentioned is when they're hiring salespeople, they craft the ads to attract the desired personality. Those exact words that you said came out of his mouth talking about that, and I think that's you're getting
not just the ad, Damon, not just the ad, the interview questions too. Like you're gonna set your whole the whole thing is going to be set to get you to the person that you want. If you know what you're looking for to start with, you can craft the whole deal from the ad, where you're going to advertise the ad, where you're going to place the ad at. If you're looking for eyes, they're going to read a different type of a periodical than the D's are. Right? If I'm looking for D's, I'm going to be in sports magazines and things like that. If I'm looking for eyes, I'm going to be in computer techs and things like that. I mean, look, you can drill down into the marketing data for days, and I'm telling you that there are lots of ways to circumnavigate all the rules. You can't prove what I'm doing, but if you're smart, you know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting stuff.
Exactly. Yep. So the more that we can empower people with this,
do what they want without making it look like they're bigots or whatever.
Yeah. Well, continue on, Jill. This is great.
All right. So just again, drilling down a little bit more, your D's, they're the dominant style. They tend to prefer an environment that allows them to be in control and create results. That's important when you're communicating, when you're interacting with a D, that you're going to be less talking. You're going to let them kind of drive the situation, let them be the driver of the conversation, and allow them. Sometimes your D's are going to be verbal processors, and so allow them to verbally process, because at the end of the day, the thing about D's is they want to know that they've come up with an idea that's going to be creating these results, that's going to be like the solution to the problem. So you want to understand that. Like I said, the basic need of D's is they need control. I know, I am one. And they make up about 10 to 14% of the population. But for I's, they want social interaction. I tell people I's are your party in a box. They're going to thrive in that environment where it's like an open concept office, or like a WeWorks kind of place. They love those. They're the ones who probably started moving their mobile office to like Starbucks when all of that became a trend, is because they want that social interaction. And they can multitask that way. They can be listening to 5 different conversations going on around them and jumping into each one and still have a lot to contribute to that. They need relationships. They need people. I's need people. And they make up about 25 to 30% of the population. Your S's, they're steady. They want stability. They want security. If you're talking to them and you're talking about things that are going to be, you're talking about changes that are coming up in an organization, or you're talking about doing something different, know that your S's are already going to be having a panic attack. And that, because they need that stability and security. So when you're talking to an S, when you're interacting with them, it's, hey, we've got some changes coming up down the road. I've got things in place so that we've got a process as we unroll this. I'm going to work with you on it. And again, giving them that security and that sense that you understand them and you understand that this is unnerving for them, but that they're going to be okay. And their basic need is appreciation. They like stability, and they like to know that being that stable factor is greatly appreciated. And it should be. I have this client, and they change things probably every 3 weeks. And for a bunch of S's, that's like, ah. But the fact that they can keep a level head, we just keep appreciating that they stay with the company and
Yeah.
that they're doing
I
well.
tell people that S
And then
equals
your C's
sensitive to
again.
change.
That's a good way to say it. It's a good way to
Yes,
say it. Yeah.
it does. Yeah. But they're so valuable, because if you had a bunch of D's and I's just walking in and just always changing things, the S's are like, whoa, knock it off.
Yeah.
Stop it. C's, they like to be known for doing things right. They want to do it right, and they want to do it to completion. You know, those people when they go to a conference and they give you those sheets that are like fill in the blank for notes to keep you engaged. The C's, you have to make sure that you have filled in every single blank for them on your presentation, because they're going to be the ones who raise their hand and be like, I missed that on page 3. What was that? Right? So again, they place high value on doing things right and all the way. Their basic need is details. You need to give C's a lot of information. They need to know the details. They need to know the why, the how, the what. They need to know all of that. And they make up 20 to 25% of the population. So it's important to understand them so that you can better interact with them and set them and work with them. So cracking the communication code, this is what it all comes down to. When you know who you are, you know how you naturally act. And so I went through, you might want to screenshot this, but I went through with each one of the personalities, and we talk about how do you naturally act and what are the wants. As a high D, I naturally act assertive because I want control. I hate saying that statement. It's true, but I hate it. If I fear that I may face losing, I may respond with anger. Look at each one of these, and don't get down on yourself for it, but understand that this is who you are, and then also understand that the people around you, this is what's going on in their head. An S naturally acts patient because they like routine. It's not because they're slow. It's not because they're adverse to change. It's not because they don't want to see the company be successful. They just thrive in routine. And if they're fearing change, they're going to not participate. And again, it's not because there's something wrong with them. It's not because they're not engaged. It's because that's how they naturally act. When I know how other people naturally are reacting, if I see somebody who's all of a sudden getting angry, I need to have my antennas go up and be like, oh, there's something that I did that's making them fearful. And then backtracking and being able to have that conversation with them of saying, okay, where did this go off track? Where did we go off the rails? And let's get this back. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And knowing
100%.
Yeah, and knowing this too, and like you said, it doesn't matter which one you're looking at there. If you understand, I may respond with anger, blame, non-participation, or criticism. Understanding that will help you go back to, okay, what didn't I do? Like you said, I didn't give the high I person the approval or whatever they're doing there, and the routine or the standards or the control. And go back and think what you didn't do and address it with them. So,
well, like I said, if you can start to figure out what other people are and interact with them in the ways to go back to the 5 love languages, which is the point of that book, figure out what they are so you can give them what they want, or, in a way that at least that they understand it. Like if I know I'm dealing with a D, I'm probably going to be a little bit more bold. Otherwise, I'm going to get run over, right? If I'm dealing with the S, I'm going to try to be a little bit more calm and nice. You know what I mean? The different styles that you communicate, it's like with my kids. I have 8 kids. I know everybody gets a giggle out of that when I say it, but I have 8 kids, and guess what? They're all different. So when I'm talking to them, I speak to each one a little bit differently, not because I love them any differently, just because that's what they need. And to manage them effectively, I'm going to talk to them a little bit different. And so being a parent helped me be a better manager, and being a manager helped me be a better parent.
Mm.
For this reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
for
so
this
good,
reason.
Ira. That's a great statement. You should type that in
Yeah.
the chat, because that's
But
truthful, Ira.
and for
That's
me
good.
personally,
Yeah.
I'm a pretty high D. I'll just put it that way. I used to steamroll people when I was younger. I just did. It was just a natural part of what I did because we were going over the hill no matter what. We're going. It's you either get on or not. We're
Right.
going.
Yep.
And to be able to come back and as I learned more about this, to really try to learn more about the different personality types and try to be more inclusive and understanding what's going on, you get a lot better. I mean, in business, you have to do this to really get your business going the way you want to. You can make the results happen, but if you don't include everyone, I think that's what some people miss, is that you can't get where you're going to go, where you really can go.
We got a good comment. A good comment from Nicole. She said, I love what you're talking about, how to adjust based on the profile. I don't love when it becomes, well, I'm this way, so you just to make it work with me, as Kelly said, and Kelly must have said something up above about meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
Look, communication, successful communication is always going to be a two-way street.
Yep.
Because otherwise you're just dictating. And I don't care if you're a D, I, S, or C. Nobody wants to be dictated to all the time. Like, you want to feel like you're being heard, and you want to be able to put your inputs in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's true in every category. I've never met a single person who was like, I don't care if you hear me. Just tell me what you want and I'll do that. That's not a healthy attitude. And someone ever says that to you, you better watch out, because that person's ready to blow up. So you really need to consider the audience, no matter if you're on social media, if it's a working relationship, a personal relationship, or whatever. However the circumstances, you should always consider. Maybe you're not thinking about it in these terms, but you need to consider your audience.
Yeah, and Andrew Deutsch brought up a good thing.
Yeah.
And Andrew Deutsch brought up a good thing. He said using this to benchmark your highest performers makes it easier to advance future team members in sales teams, is what and and you alluded to that earlier, Jill, I believe, and Ira, and in the hiring process and ad creation, everything. I think along with that, understanding who you've got on your team is key to being able to do that.
I'm going to tell you a secret. In my sales teams, I actually wanted one of each of these. Okay. And here's why. So Andrew's point to me would only be valid if I had it multiples of 4. So 4, 8, 12, 16, something like that, right? The biggest sales team I've ever managed was 12 people. So I can't tell you about people that are managing hundreds of folks. That was never my deal, because I always worked for small and medium-sized businesses, basically. But here's the thing. Like, my best sales rep a lot of times was super high in one of these categories. But the fact is, if I had nothing but that personality times 4 or 8 or 12, I would have missed a lot of other sales, because if that person wasn't successful with somebody, guess what? I've got other personality types that I can throw at that prospect, and the likelihood that one of those will succeed now is higher, because the D didn't work, or the I didn't work, or the C didn't work. And I don't know if you ever did the characters, right? The animal types, but the lion and the owl. My best sales rep ever was an owl. And every once in a while, I would have a great prospect and I'd send my owl out there, and my owl didn't work. So now I'm going to send out one of my others, and guess what? They were successful a lot of times. So, not that Andrew's wrong. I mean, if you can figure out what makes people great and try and train that in all your team, I think he's spot on. But I'm saying, if I have to pick a stable, I'm going to try to pick a well-rounded stable, not just all of one type. That's where maybe we disagree.
Yeah.
So continue on, Jill.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
okay. So let's talk about communication. How do you communicate with these different personalities? Because this is what we're talking about. Okay, we know who we are. We've learned enough about the personalities to be able to peg who other people are. And so communicating with the D, be to the point, focus on the facts, build respect. D's, they don't like a lot of fluff. They don't want you to be like beating around the bush. Just get to the point and then focus on the facts. D's are not like fluffy feely people. So it's hard for them to factor in feelings. When you have some of the other personalities that are very emotionally driven, you know, they talk about feelings as if it's fact, and a D is like, that is not fact, that's just your feelings. So you can reframe it to a D of saying, I feel like it's this way, and even going so far as to say, I realize that feelings aren't facts, but I need you to be aware of how I feel, and how I feel is the fact. Does that make sense? So
I get that all the time from a
again,
couple of my kids.
yeah,
He hates me. What do you mean?
yeah,
You think he hates you? Doesn't mean he actually hates you. We have this conversation all the time.
yeah, yep. So your D's, here's the value that they bring to teams is they're innovative. They're going to push a group to make a decision. They're willing to speak out. They're great in a crisis. They see the big picture. So understanding the value that a D brings to an organization, and as we interact with Ds, letting them work in their strengths. That's something I wanted to say when we were talking earlier, is learning about this communication this way isn't about me dumbing down or toning down who I am as a D. I'm still going to be fully a D or fully an I if I'm in that mode. But what I have to do is I have to understand who you are so that I can communicate with who I am in a way that you best understand. Does that make sense? So this isn't about like dumbing down who you are or dumbing down your personality and only being who the other person is, but it is about understanding them.
Yeah,
well enough.
I don't think you said change who
Okay?
you are. I think you just said be open minded to who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the world doesn't revolve just around
Exactly.
us.
Yep.
We're in this thing together. So
No.
yeah. No, you're making perfect sense to me.
Yep. Cool. Good. All right. Your eyes, to communicate with them, be friendly, be nice, make sure you smile when you talk to them. Masks have been horrible because people can't see your smile.
Be like
It's the
Mike
worst.
O'Connor. Be nice.
Yeah.
Yes. So eyes, they can talk, and they talk loud, and they talk a lot, and you can pick out what they're saying in their conversation, and you need to help them translate that talk into action plan. They're the ones that at the end of the meeting that you want to wrap it up and be like, okay, so we've talked about XYZ. In the next week, you need to do ABC, and then listen to their ideas. That validates them. And again, eyes, they're super verbal processors. So just because they're talking about something doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to put it into play. They're just talking through, and they need you to listen. And you can give them feedback about why that's a great idea, or maybe we should talk about that more. But they want you to listen to them. That's how you validate them. So the great thing about eyes and the team is they know how to network with people. They're amazing networks, and they can get things done through people. And if they can't do it, they know who to connect you to in order to get things done. Instinctive communicators, strong in brainstorming. You know how when you have to do those projects and you're all sitting at a table, and the presenter says, so all of you together answer this question, and then they get up to where they're like, okay, so now who from your team is going to stand up and talk about your answers? That's going to be your eye. They're great spokespersons, and they're very articulate. S's. Again, communicating with an S, give them time to adjust to change. Know that they are not going to come in and be able to change on a dime. You have to give them time for that. Clearly define what the goals are. They love those boundaries. They like it when you just set the clear path for them. Avoid hurry and pressure. Again, that kind of goes back to giving them time to adjust to change. It's the same thing with an S, you can't come in that morning and be like, okay, so we're unveiling this new sales and we need to change the display in the store and it needs to be done by noon. They're going to freak out at that. So don't do that to an S. Intuitive and people focused, very loyal and dependable, full of common sense. They actually can look at an entire project and they can break down the individual pieces and see them for their individuality, and then also put it back into the entire project. And the great thing about S's is they can see an easier way to do things. If you have something that is complicated, if you're like, I just can't figure out what's going to be the best way to do this or the most efficient way to do this, bring it to an S and they're going to find the easiest way, which is going to make it most efficient. And then C's, communicating with a C, avoid surprises and use very clear data. Again, C's are task driven, so they're like the D's, they are not touchy-feely kind of people. They want to be supported by the data, and you need to be patient with them, just like with S's, and diplomatic. The great thing about C's is they're instinctive organizers. They think very logically. If you want to take the emotion out of making a decision, bring in a C, because they can do that and they can see it from a logical point of view. Emotion doesn't cloud what is that decision. They strive for consensus. They are good at evaluating the team's progress, analyzing obstacles, and they're very tactful and skillful in managing delicate situations, which is ironic because C's are so task driven, but they see that as a task, managing those delicate situations, because they're conscientious of other people. Okay?
Very cool.
We're all unique for a special purpose. Just want to remind everybody of that.
It's cool, and we'll bring some people up now and talk. So if you want to come up and say something, go ahead and raise your hand or drop something in the chat.
Damon, let's bring Kelly up. Kelly's
all right. We're going to do that. I'm used to having Andrew do this, but not but because
that's his role. That's normally his role. So
it's normally his role. But yeah, this is really cool. I'm bringing Kelly up here now. But Jill, as you go through these now, Kelly, I think you should be coming up. Awesome. As you go through this, it's interesting because when I was managing businesses and you were talking through these, I was thinking in my head how, okay, here's your salespeople, here's your people that are working in whatever you're executing on, and then here's your quality people or your guideline, keepers of the guidelines and making sure we're all compliance kind of thing. When you look at it and you go, and the different ways that you have to speak to each one of them, it's so interesting because, as Ira is Ira's a salesperson, you see that, and you see an S to me in manufacturing would be a production person, and a C would be more of a quality assurance kind of person. And it was interesting in business because S people and C people are not necessarily resistant to change if change is what they know is happening.
Right.
And that is part of what they do. But they know what the end goals are. They know the guidelines around how we are going to do change, because there's a structure. Change is structure. And this is what I think many people miss in business, is that you can create a culture of continuous change and continuous improvement and satisfy everyone on the circle if you communicate it right to each one of them, and then let them go down within their framework. And because I see, as you said, you were talking about the S's. I mean, I've seen some phenomenal gains in whatever kind of company you want to look at by listening to the people that do it and just doing what they say. They know, they just like, wow, why do we do it this way? We can do it this way and it'd be way better. And you go, let's do it. And they're like, well, I didn't know we could do it that way.
Yeah.
Well, and also like if you're a new manager and you've got, maybe you're managing 2 or 3 people, and you have a certain thing. Okay, you're feeling good. You swap out an employee, so now you have a new one, and now all of a sudden things aren't working. You're like, what the hell? What happened? Like, well, you know what happened? You hired somebody with a different personality type.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
Right.
Kelly, awesome.
Yeah, can I mention, I just wanted to say, like, so here's what I found out about DISC. I love DISC. I'm a huge, huge fan. I implemented my last company. We use it for communication. So I've been like, hogging up the comments because I'm so psyched about this. Here's what I've learned. At different points in your life, you can be different profiles depending on your jobs.
Yeah.
So
and life stage probably plays into it too.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. So, and you're supposed to answer the DISC as a working professional, but it's not, it really does kind of bleed into your life. But I am right now like a very high D, which can be really, really bad. So that's why I need to understand how I'm perceived. So like Jill said, I'll write emails and then I'll say, oh crap, I got to go back and say, hi, you. How was the weekend? When really I'm just like, I just need to get to the answer. Like I just want the answer. And it's not because I don't care about Susie Q, but if Susie Q's and she's now not feeling good about my message. She's thinking, Kelly just basically thinks I'm not doing anything because she's reading totally into that message. And really I'm just saying, where are we? Like, so however, I will tell you, I took the DISC multiple times. I used to be like almost right in the middle when I was doing like more account management, client management, team management. And I shifted to the high D when I became managing partner of a firm because I had to, because I didn't have time to spend in all the details and everything. And I became get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. So I think people can shift. It takes years, but I think they can shift to what they need. They can adapt to what they need to do if they're, I don't want to say smart enough, perceptive enough, right?
That's a good way to say it, I think.
Yeah. And it depends on where you're at too. Like I had a client at work. She was a super high C, and at home she was a super high D. So yeah,
I'm definitely different at home.
Yeah.
It just depends on the environment that you're in.
I work at home, so I'm the same.
You're right. No, I'm very, so I maybe on this, people may think like, oh, she's an I, she can talk for hours, but I'm actually an introvert. I have zero interest in socializing outside of work. I can talk about work because I love it. I do not want to talk outside of work. Like when friends say, can you talk? They know to ask me, can you talk? I'll say, not tonight. Can we talk tomorrow? Like I have to be in the mood because I'm an introvert. For work, I'm an extrovert. Damon, is that you?
Yes.
Right? Like for work, you are who you have to be.
Yeah.
And I can network and I can get on here, but I
would love to talk about this because I 100% agree with what you're saying, Kelly. I am an introvert by nature, and nobody believes me. They're like, what do you mean you're an introvert? You never shut up. I'm like, no, here's what you don't know is all the time and effort and the books I've read and the things I've done being in drama and choir to teach myself how to come out of my shell so that I could make a living. Mm-hmm. But realistically, I could be the guy on the island for years by myself, and I would be just fine. The boat can just keep going right on by.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? As long as I can make a living and I can sustain my family, I don't need to talk to anybody. But I'm good at it because I work on it.
But people wouldn't know that, right? So outside of work, people wouldn't know that about you, Ira, or Damon, or me, because they assume, even when I walk into a meeting, like a network, I can go in and they call it like kind of command the room, right? So I can go in and like take control, and it just becomes something I turn on. It's not my normal personality, but that's what I have to do for work. So it's interesting. Like really, the friends that I like to talk to are you guys that I talk to on LinkedIn every day and on the phone and text, like, and everyone here in the message, like those are my friends. We talk about business and stuff. That's what really interests me. So if you guys call me at 9, I'll talk to you about work all day long. but I love you and I love your kids and I know all about everyone. But I really want to talk about what's going to teach me, what I'm going to learn from.
Did you just say I love you?
Right.
No.
That really was you on Nick's post. Let's just get that out in the open.
Oh. But you know, it is when
I just made Kelly blush.
I know, it's great. It's great.
I'm hot now. I'm sweating.
You know, and it's funny that you say that, Kelly, because we are so alike in that respect. Because I live with a high I person. I mean, I am off the chart I. She is, and
get her
love her, and I'm, you know, in business, decisions. That's what I do. I help people make the right decisions. Yep. At home, people ask me, "What are you doing this weekend?" I have no idea. I have no idea. I care not. I know I'm waking up. I know I'm going to have coffee in the morning. Other than that, I might have some things that I want to do. But other than that, I have no idea what my schedule is. And
he has the plan.
Yeah, it's all planned.
Yeah, yep. See, that's why. Listen, Damon, no partner, no plan. I'm doing nothing. I'm going to baseball. I'm working out, and I'm working.
Yeah, what's Eric do, right?
I'm happy.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Maybe we only have a couple minutes. I got to play Andrew's part here because 9 o'clock's coming. But one thing, sometimes it's like I forget to flip that switch from work to home. It's really not a problem. If I forget to switch, the work went on. You know, it's okay. But if I forget to switch, the work went off, and I go out there, my family will hate me fast. You know what I mean? Because like what Damon's saying, I'm a business owner. So I have things I have to decide, and I'm, you know, like order the orders, right? So I want to make sure that I used to love the commute. I know it sounds crazy, but it was time to decompress.
Sure.
Okay. And this is introvert in me. I need time to decompress. So the commute was great because I could turn the radio on, sing my heart out, which I love to sing. And it would help me make that transition. So when I walk in the door, I'm not a beast, right? Right. And now working from home, that's something I have to do a different way. And I'm still, honestly, if I'm going to be completely transparent, I am still working on that skill. So techniques, maybe Brad Smith, maybe you, Jill, anybody out there, if you know like techniques on how to flip that script in a faster way, I would love to read that advice.
Yeah, Lisa Downs has got.
So work from home people is such a.
Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, work from home people. My suggestion to them is, you know, you shut everything off and then you just go for a 10-15 minute walk around the block, and that's your commute. Is to say, look, I know that I've been here. I know you need me, but I have to do this in order to switch my brain in and be ready for being the best that I can be for where I'm at home, or hanging out with friends or whatever. But just turning everything off, leaving the phone, and then just going and taking a 10-15 minute walk.
That's great. It's funny you say that because I do that. At the end of the day, I'll go, okay, it's time to stop. My brain's done. And I've got a little 2-mile walk that I do. And when I come back, I walk hard. So I come back, I'm a little bit tired, and then it is time to shut everything off and do and be with the family. So we're getting close to time. Jill, this has been awesome. You know, just talking about this, and thanks a lot, Kelly. Great to get you on stage because you deal with this every day with recruiting, and it's very important.
I'm going to take a picture. Sorry, taking a picture. Smile.
All right.
Sorry, it's my thing.
All right, good. But it's so great to have you on and talk about this today, Jill. And as I'm sitting here talking about it, there may be follow-up that we do down the road too, because I think there's some in-depth that we could do that would be really interesting. I wrote a couple of ideas now down because I think a lot of us in here have similar business targets, prospects, and that would be kind of an interesting thing for us to talk about. But you have something coming up at the end of the month here. You got can you explain a little bit about that to everyone here so they can talk about that?
Yeah, I have a free webinar and I'm going to talk about communication. It's going to be more interactive. You'll hear a lot of what we talked about today, but then we're also going to go more in depth. I actually go through and have people do the DISC assessment, and we talk a little bit more about it and just how to use it. It's going to be on Friday, February 28th. It's at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time.
I'm sorry, did you say Friday, February 28th?
I probably didn't I? Friday, August 28th. I have no clue, right? Like 2020 coronavirus.
We're all retired. We don't know what
all
day
that
it is.
craziness.
Yeah, everybody's the same. We know what you said.
So
Yeah.
yes, August 28th. Friday, August 28th.
I'm bringing the blush
at
factor to the
12:30
show
p.m.
today, guys. Just throwing it out there. I got to get Damon and then we're good.
This is what you do.
Just remember, Ira, what comes around goes
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, you reap what you sow for sure.
Jill, is your
So yeah.
Tell us about your. It's August 28th. What is like? How do we find it?
So you can go to linkconsulting.info.
Okay. And we'll put that in the
/ and I'll put it in the
comments
linkconsulting.info
there you go.
/ communication.
Awesome.
Oh, I don't have my glasses on. Okay, here we go. Communication.
I think Ira's got it up there. Boom.
There we go.
All right.
There we go, Jill.
There we go.
Awesome.
Hey.
So we-
We have the conference.
so you
Sorry,
can-
so ignore me.
yeah. But Jill's got the link in the comments.
No worries.
You know, again.
You don't know this, but I could type 100 words a minute. Boom.
Hey, Damon. You know what would be really cool if everyone took the disc and we had tables with DISC at one table and give them a subject to talk about and another DISC and then see how they can interact with each other. Because I guarantee you people will be rolling their eyes or like it's fascinating to learn. Just a thought.
That's a good idea.
Actually,
That
Mike was
is.
busting me because I said I can type 100 words a minute. And he said 70 of them will be correct. I have dyslexia, so that's probably not accurate. He's overestimating how.
Yeah.
I can't spell this in my life.
Anybody that knows me knows I type horribly, and I just let it go. But anyway, that's a great idea, Kelly. Yeah. I'm old school. I don't know how to do it.
Hey, Andrew's screaming at you, saying it's time to get back to the tables. Now, for any of you who don't know, round table session. Now we're pretty much done. We're going to wrap this up, but go back to the tables and have some networking. That's what makes it so awesome. I was actually talking to Alon about that on the show. I met him like 3 or 4 weeks ago. We went from meeting at the tables to we have 2 different projects that we're working on together. So you can do business with these people. So stick around, get to know them, say hi.
Have to go.
All right. Talk to you later, Kelly. I'm going to drop you off the stage here, and awesome seeing you. All right. Yeah, and no doubt. And the other thing too is I've had some people reach out on doing different events on the Remo platform. If you're looking to do an event and you want to try something out, hey, I'm all ears. I'll help you try it. We'll go through one. I'm helping Alon with one. Kurt Anderson and I are going to be doing one with several people coming up later this fall on e-commerce. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Jill, so awesome to get you on today.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. And for those of you that don't know, Jill just moved to the Portland area. She lives in an awesome part of the city. We were talking about that last week, but yeah, good stuff. Thanks a lot. We're going back to the tables, and we will see you soon.
See you.